You are listening to the Mary Jane Society podcast, where you will meet entrepreneurs, cultivators, scientists, doctors, and inventors in the cannabis industry.
I'm your host, Pam Schmiel, marketer and publicist in the cannabis industry. Every cannabis market has its own unique path to legalization, and Washington, D.C. is no exception. Terrence White, CEO of the luxury dispensary Monko, joins us to discuss the city's evolving cannabis landscape. As the former chairman of the I-71 committee, more on that, he has played a key role in shaping DC's cannabis regulations. Now, as he prepares to open his second location, complete with a cultivation license, he shares his mission to destigmatize cannabis through high-end dispensary experiences and position DC as a world-class cannabis destination. Let's welcome Terrence White.
I'm excited to talk to you because I actually I don't know really anything about the DC market, cannabis market.
Okay.
So I'm kind of really excited to hear what's going on there. So I would love to just start with an overview of your background and how you came to open a dispensary, just like a little overview.
Good morning, Pam, and thanks for having me. I am Terrence White, founder and CEO of Monko, here in the District of Columbia, in the Mount Vernon Triangle area of the district, right on the cuffs of downtown DC. I got started in cannabis because I am also a returned citizen. Um, I spent almost 2 years of my life at FCI Morgantown in Morgantown, West Virginia. And it was there in 2010, 2011 that the cannabis came on my radar. I am currently and formerly at that time, I was in the real estate world, in the investor world, development. And doing that, I'm also a ex-college football player where I bumped into, unfortunately, one of my teammates that was serving time for cannabis. And at that point, um, Colorado had started introducing legislation in terms of, wanting to make cannabis legal in the state. And it was there that I saw a friend of mine and an ex-teammate of mine doing more time than me for cannabis. And it was not strange, but I thought to myself, why we're still talking about something that in 1984, there was a judgment by the Supreme Court saying that cannabis was medically um, for, different type of, cataracts and sarcoma and different other diseases where in nature to the body, the eyes in particular. Um, and here we are given, I think he got 78 months for trafficking cannabis. Um, and so as time moved on in 2015, I left the district, came back to the district, and they introduced in 2014 the I-71 law here in the District of Columbia that made cannabis partially recreational due to um, U.S. Congressman Andy Harris had put a rider on D.C. Um, not allowing them to be recreational, which that rider is still in place today. Um, and so the district wanted to combat that with, they only had 8 medical dispensaries, probably 5 at the time, and now a total of, it became 8 later on. And so um, that's when I started getting involved from a local standpoint. Um, and then when COVID happened, it gave me the opportunity to sit down and write a business plan. in that business plan, you mentioned something, one of your latter questions was about why luxury, you know, you never heard of it. Well, wanted to take the stitch and stigma off of cannabis. I wanted to allow people to have free flow, free will, and be in a conducive place where they're comfortable, and not have the um, that stigma of it was a smoke shop or head shop or whatever that case may be. So I opened Monko in 2022 after COVID and all the supply chain issues. And but more or less, I also wanted to get a seat at the table in terms of legislation, um, and policy, because I thought it was important, not only as a returned citizen, but as social equity. Um, and my charge wasn't a drug charge. My charge was a white collar charge. But nevertheless, I wanted to help those that couldn't help themselves, get into the space that did have drug charges, and that was trying to come back and I don't, rebuilding your name and getting you back together after, going to prison. That's the biggest hurdle. Um,
Imagine.
and so, God allowed me to have a, um, seat at the table. I fought for, shutting down the legacy markets. Um, I came up with some legislation. There was a committee formed called the I-71 Committee, which I chaired, for a couple years. And, so here I am today.
And
Yeah.
so how did you how did you get involved with the what is I-71 committee? Like what
Well, they came to me because during that time, there had been several attempts to, shut the unlicensed stores down, and I had the relationships here in the city. You know, from a real estate standpoint, I knew council members and other community leaders and developers, and so, you use some of your political capital to help, fight that battle and have a strong voice of why not,
Mhm.
do something. DC is a unusual city, and when I say that, it is the population of DC is first of all, it's 8.8 square miles, roughly about 800,000, 800,000 people. We see 6.3 million commuters a day that travel into the city, and we get about 22 to 23 million visitors a year.
Mhm.
So although we're small in from a geographic, standpoint, we're bigger than most states in terms of visitation and what happens on a day-to-day basis. So the opportunity here is enormous because it gives us the ability to have a thriving cannabis market, which that's what we're working on. And as a thought leader in the space, I've done plenty of podcasts and, op-eds and other journals and articles been written on me. Um, it is my job and my mission to, number one, get us recreational, but number two, that let us have a thriving, cannabis market. And that's my goal, and I'm hoping it's the city's goal to, um, embrace that. The tax potential is enormous and has the ability to cure a lot of different issues. Now, whatever with every recreational market, that does come some hurdles and there are some naysayers, but how do we come to a agreement, to agree to disagree to agree, or to get along, as folks say. And so that's what we're trying to do right now.
So what are the laws? So are you operating as a medical dispensary now?
So coming up here shortly in the next few weeks, I'm turning from a illegal to a medical, market. Every person in the city that does not have a license or didn't get placard, they're shutting all the I-71 or illegal stores they down. I got a social equity license, and I'm vertically integrated also for cultivation.
Oh, very
So
nice.
it is, our goal here to be vertical. My cultivation is called Pleasant Hill Wellness. It pays tribute to the Black farmers in rural North Carolina, which I grew up in.
Mm,
Monko means lover of monkeys, which also resonated in the Appalachian Mountains in the Black areas, and even uh, cannabis used to be called monkey in the Appalachian Mountains.
I was going to ask you what the name meant.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah. So blacks would that grown cannabis or traded cannabis at that time when it was called monkey, and then it was called rabbit tobacco, and then it was called reefer.
Wow.
And then, they started calling it pot and marijuana and so on, and, ganja, whatever the case may be. But black farmers or black growers, excuse me, um, had to, disguise what cannabis was for them in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And mainly it was used because they didn't have medicine. It was something used to heal, tea, some smoke, but it was used to help cure ailments.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting history. Um, so okay, so the I-71 is meant you're an illicit store. It's not like I'm in New York City and our
Mm.
illicit stores are called smoke shops and they're popping up everywhere and it's has nothing to do with anything but people selling illegal,
Right.
stuff. So, but it seems like the I-71 was a little bit more structured by this.
Oh, it was structured, but it was still illegal. It was a loophole where the city said that you can possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana without being searched or frisked or even violated. So it gave us the ability to open storefronts, which and then turn into some bigger problems. And the reason a lot of people open I-71s, number one is, like I said, stitch and stigma, but we wanted to get rid of the pop-ups that was causing people to get hurt, robbed, and all types of stuff, and selling just bad product,
Mhm.
to hurt people, K2 and
Yeah.
fentanyl lace and that type stuff. So again, it has been my mission to be our laws that was happened in 2023 led to us taking it from an illegal to a legal license. And then so now, and then there was some social equity periods, and then there was another license behind that. So what we've been doing at Monco is taking this thing by the bull by the horns and trying to convert people to understand just because it's luxury doesn't mean it's not affordable. Um, our tagline is luxury with a purpose. And our purpose is to make sure that number one is self-certification, um, making sure that the customer understands that the satisfaction of going into a cannabis store to educate, to give them the experience, and then the main thing is the product and the outcome.
Right.
Why being in just like going in a Louis Vuitton or Gucci store, you want a service, you want a product, and that is, but it's different with cannabis because you have different grades of cannabis, and but it's not only the grade, it's also the education behind that grade. What makes this better than that bud? Same strand, that strand was grown outdoors, this strand wasn't. This strand, these are the terpenes that we're not introducing people and talking to people about. And then we have to educate them on the THC percentage, why you shouldn't use certain things if you're not accustomed to that. And I think part of everything is about learning. A lot of people get involved in cannabis because it's the new norm, and there's a new study that cannabis is outperforming alcohol 2 to 1. And a lot of, 21-year-old, which they were already introduced to it, but when they get 21, now they're adult, they no longer turn to alcohol, they turn to cannabis. So we have, as a country, as a nation, we have to be very conscious of that and making sure that we educate people, just like we educated people on cigarettes and alcohol, what can and can't harm the body,
Right, right.
and what THC levels, excuse me, that you may be able to accustom, why you, if you're asthma, why you shouldn't be smoking, these type things.
Right, right. And how are you educating? Is it just like for people coming in and you just have well-trained staff that talks about all
Well,
this?
it's twofold. It's staff, and then it's education on the websites. It's thought leadership. It's a lot of
Oh,
community outreach. It's a lot of different things. So you have to have a educated staff, or staff that's knowledgeable of what products you sell and why.
so who are most of your customers? And do
Well,
they have to get a medical license? Because you do have a lot of people from.
So, so right now you have to be 21 with a valid ID up until we open our doors for medical. Once we open it, then you would have. So we're in the process of converting our customers over to medical card customers. And what most people don't understand is because you're medical, you fall on HIPAA. And so if you are a federal worker, it goes into the district database, but not a federal database, meaning the district cannot share per HIPAA laws. They cannot share that with the federal government.
Right, which most people, I hate giving my license and all that. I just feel like they're tracking
Yeah, so
what
but
I'm
it's
doing.
just like when you go to your doctor office, once you provide a social security number, or you it's patient client information. And so that stays in a database. In that database, even if you're recreational, the if there's a medical program in a state, by law, I did not know this until a couple of days ago, they cannot share that information with federal, regardless if you're a federal worker or a state worker, they can't share that information
Mm,
because the HIPAA, that's part of the HIPAA guidelines.
okay, I didn't know that either. Well, that's comforting to some people who have concerns about that. Um, but so your customers are like people who are coming into the city?
So there are, my customers are tourists, my local I mean, it's just like any other city.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's just like any other city. I mean, we've been open. October was 2 years. We've seen over 20 some thousand customers in the last 2 years. Um, and what we thrive is, um, we have a good base here in the city, but we roughly 2,000 reviews. We're 5.0. you know what we do is thrive in customer service and customer excellence, and so that's, and so right now, in building brand and brand identity, it's about getting out. This year is all about community activations, community organize brand initiatives, so that we continue to spread Monko throughout the city, especially in the transition.
And so in the transition, do you know how many licenses they're awarding the medical license?
Well, we right now it looks like we're probably going to have about 30 or 40 licenses come on, or on board. But we were a city of over 250 illegal stores. So getting the competition down to 30 or 40 is huge. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we see brighter days. We did pretty good in the market, but we see brighter days with helping us get to the next level, and that's what it's all about.
Hmm. And has your cultivation operation up and running yet?
No, it's not. We're working on that now to get that up and running. We're going to build a state-of-the-art cultivation, um, and it's, working on all those designs now. And so here in the future, but it's definitely going. The train is on the tracks.
Okay. And do you source your products from the Maryland market?
No, we source products locally in other places, but no, not Maryland.
Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I didn't know, like, as
Mm.
Washington, DC.
No, we grow right here in DC.
Oh,
It's
you do?
it's
Oh.
all indoor. It's just like anything else. We cannot grow over state lines.
Oh,
We
okay. I
we
didn't
can't
know
bring
how that worked
no,
with DC.
we can't bring. So everything here is done in the District of Columbia. It's grown right here in the District of Columbia.
So how many, there must be a number of cultivation facilities to feed all the dispensaries that are coming up.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, illicit means illicit. I mean, people,
Yeah, I mean, not the
but
illicit people.
there was only eight medical stores in so you could have two cultivators. Now you're probably going to have about 12 to 15 come on board.
Hmm. So do you have a big product line that you offer at the store? I mean, I
Yeah,
did a little bit, yeah. So is there a good variety of
we have a
products?
good variety. We sell, top brands, top products. We have our own house brand that we, edibles called Bliss. We're 10 milligram, 50 milligram. We're working on Pleasant Hill is we're working with the local manufacturer now to license that in the city. And then we're working on something called Blossom, which is a vape. That's a 2 gram disposable. So a line there, and then we have Balance coming out, which would be capsules, tinctures, that type thing. So our biggest goal right now is working with the wellness community, yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, gym instructors, and just pushing the whole wellness thing because cannabis is wellness. And teaching people how to use it and use it right from not only a medical standpoint, but from a recreational standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach to take that to take the wellness. I also love, I think it's a Maryland operation, but the Curio Wellness
Mm.
uh, dispensaries in Maryland. I know they do a great job of combining and adding to their store all those different services, those health and wellness services. Um, so can you just talk can you just talk about like what are the top selling products? I'm just curious what your consumers are interested in, or it's probably all over the board, like
Well,
gummy.
I mean, 40% of our edibles. DC is a huge edible market because there's a lot of females prefer to do edibles versus smelling. You do have, those females who like to smoke, but percentages we have a huge edible and market. And then, of course, flower, you know, um, and so that would be,
How's
and
the flower? How's your flower in the state of in Washington? Is it you guys?
so, I mean, our flour is good. Flour is good. It just depends on who's growing, like anything else. Um, we recognize, getting cannabis from California, understanding. I spent 3 years out in California learning the business on and off.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
and I spent time from humble Stockton, S Sacramento, all the way down to San Diego. So I've been all throughout the state of California, just learning cannabis, the growing process, the healing process, the business side of it. So it gave me, the ability to understand what cannabis really is and to learn the culture of cannabis. And when I first originally opened the store, my tagline was ignite your curiosity because we had to allow people to understand what luxury is, um, and igniting their curiosity to understand, take the stitch and stigma off. And we've since then, switched to luxury with a purpose, because of all our outreach. We want to not just be a luxury store and not have any affiliations with, the community. And that's been huge. So partaking in sharing wealth and of knowledge of the plant and understanding what is grown, where it's grown, um, how it's used. Um, those have been big things in our purpose. And then the legislation and policy side, of the purpose. And then, giving back to the community. And I do something called Women in Cannabis. This year, I think we're going to forego it because it's just so much on our plates. But the last 2 years, um, what we do, we pay heritage to the women in cannabis that have done things on a policy, business level, legislation level, community actors, and things of that nature. Those who are returned citizens, just to, you know, award them and bring note of the wonderful work they're doing in the uh, industry, and that, which is huge, and it makes the industry overall better.
What team have you pulled together for this? Because I think I just read that you also just opened a second location, or you're about to.
Well, I'm working on a second location right now, and we're doing a license agreement with another retailer. We can't own two licenses in a city and be vertical, but we can do a license agreement and operation. We're operating it, and just bringing another Monko to the area because most people love what we do in terms of just the luxury, and most people call it the apple of cannabis. Look at it that way.
Yeah, no, I know. When I looked at your website, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it reminds me of. But it's just a great feeling. You just, I mean, I can get the feeling. It's like walking into like a Gucci store. You just
Yeah,
feel, you know.
yeah. And that is by far my favorite luxury brand. So it's I've been wearing it since 1993.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but the ability to not only it's the branding, but it's what's behind the brand. I have a good team. Um, I have a good partner and chief operating officer and Barry Vaughn and um, CMO and GM, and then um, great PR team in Zoe Wilder. And then it's everybody in the store that makes the team. It's all the vendors that we use, and we're very particular. Even being an I-71, I was using medical, if I could, using medical vendors to make sure that we ran a store just like it was medical. Um, um, by using the right cannabis vendors. And so we continue to sharpen the pencil there. Some people work, some vendors work, some don't work based on business models and approaches. I'm excited. We got an app coming out here shortly, which will allow us to touch more people. Um, you know, we're working on more technology to integrate um, customer footsteps and just be customer awareness. And then I'm working on more legislation to make sure that the district allows us to advertise and market as cannabis dispensaries and retailers. How do we grow our business so that we can give you more money for your tax base? So those are some things that we're working on right now.
So it sounds like your day-to-day um, operation or duties or whatever is just kind of managing all these different things. It's
Well,
right.
I'm the CEO. That's my job. Uh,
Yeah, right.
so my job is to manage what's going on and to make sure that we do the best that we can do. Um, And we have challenges as a business. And right now, our biggest thing is growth. How do we grow? How do we expand our tent? And how do we relate with the everyday cannabis user, or the once a week cannabis user, or the 3 time a week cannabis user? And we want to continue to push that, education and awareness, and identity throughout the city. Um, and it shows like this that allows people to understand who visit DC, that we're there and we have a home for them when they come away from home.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I will stop by when I pass whenever I pass through. So I guess to wind down, I would just love to know, since you are in DC and you are involved in the government legislation, is there any like I'm not saying like you're going to give us, what's happening behind closed doors in DC, but just like what's the chatter there about the future of, legalization, national legalization.
I mean, as someone who's worked on the local and federal level of trying to get cannabis rescheduled and descheduled, um, I think the biggest obstacle is the Trump administration has not, they have held their cards pretty close to the vest when it comes to cannabis. And I don't know if that has something to do because there's not a Secretary of Health and Human Services in place yet, or are we going to continue to play the games that have been played by, his administration and the past administration? Um, so I guess the answer is it's to be continued.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, we rescheduling happened last year, but we don't know if that administrator is going to be replaced, because if the administrator is replaced that has deemed the ruling on rescheduling, I know that the um, those who were opposed to this was all heard under the past administration. The findings have not come out yet. And I don't know if that's because this administration has said put a halt on it for the first 100 days or 90 days or whatever the case may be. So that's why I say it's to be continued, because I think, um, you know, there was some chatter that, it was in good standings, but, of course, we had the election season, and right around November, when it was supposed to be, you know, um, conveyed what's next in cannabis. So I guess like everyone else, I'm sitting on the sideline trying to figure it out.
Nobody knows anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
nobody. Yeah, no one knows.
it's so interesting how in all our different states we're dealing with all these, the different challenges of how to get the industry up and going. And it's just the different nuances of how this is all unfolding. So it's very interesting to hear your story.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the story, not only about me, but about what's going on in the district.
Yeah.
And and I say to people, anytime that you're in the district and you want to contact us, we're located at 444 K Street Northwest. We're in the heart of Mount Vernon Triangle, and um, if you want to catch us on social media, we're at Monko DC. Website, it's monco.co.co. And it's been a pleasure, Pam, talking to you as well. And um, I hope that all your cannabis endeavors and in this 2025 year, that you and Mary Jane continue to do great things.
Thank you so much. I wish you a lot of luck too. I really do.